Unit 7, Troubleshooting. One of your jobs as a computer technician is to maintain computers and keep them running. When a computer fails to work properly, notice we did not say if, your ability to get it working all by yourself could save you and your company lots of time and money. More than likely, on the day a computer malfunctions, you'll need to decide if you can handle a particular problem yourself or let your work become delayed while you wait for somebody else to handle it. But how do you make that decision? And what happens when you need to explain the problem to a professional support person? This unit will look at troubleshooting and support from the perspective of a knowledgeable computer user. Troubleshooting the basics. In today's presentation, we will discuss the troubleshooting process. As always, let's begin with the objectives. When you complete this presentation, you will be able to use your senses to observe problems, describe a systematic methodology for finding and diagnosing computer problems. Third, determine if a problem is hardware, software, or virus related. And then finally, fourth, identify common troubleshooting resources, including knowledge bases on the internet, telephone technical support, and vendor CDs. As a computer technician, one of your most pressing responsibilities is to get the computer back to normal when there is a problem. To do this expeditiously, you will need to use every tool at your disposal. To begin, let's discuss the most basic tools of all, your various senses. Recall your 5 basic senses are sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. With the possible exception of the sense of taste, you can put all of your senses to work in troubleshooting. As with all other aspects of life, your most important sense is your sight. Careful visual observation can solve many problems. A wisp of smoke curling upward from a workstation is a clear and immediate sign of impending doom. But in real life, the visual indications are seldom this obvious. Instead, you need to find yourself searching for loose cables, boards that are not quite seated properly, missing terminators, or fans that no longer turn. Other visual delights, when you troubleshoot, are the maintenance and service logs that are generated by your computer. When you troubleshoot a computer, your sense of sound is also vitally important. In particular, you must listen to what the user of the computer says. Those who use the computer on a daily basis are uniquely qualified to notice changes in performance, missing capabilities, and etc. Generally, they are not shy about pointing out these changes. Listen to them carefully. Take them seriously. They can be a great ally in solving problems. It is also a good idea to listen to the computer itself. It will frequently provide you with audible cues to impending troubles. Examples include noisy mechanical devices such as fans and hard drives, CD-ROMs and floppy drives. But sometimes even non-mechanical devices can provide audible warnings. The power supply is an excellent example. Frequently, it will hum loudly or even squeal in a high-pitched tone for hours or days before it finally fails. And do not overlook the sense of touch, which can quickly locate overheating components or mechanical devices that vibrate excessively. Even your sense of smell can sometimes provide clues. The smell of smoke or overheating components is a clear sign of danger. The point is, you are blessed with a battery of senses more powerful than all the test instruments money can buy. The key is to be observant and put those senses to work. Now let's look at a systematic procedure to put your senses to work. There is a time-tested approach to troubleshooting that has proven quite effective in helping to find and repair computer and network problems. It is an 8-step process that goes something like this. First, identify the exact issue. Second, recreate the problem. Third, isolate the cause. Fourth, formulate a correction. Continuing on, our fifth step would be to implement the correction. Sixth, test the system. Seventh, document the problem and the solution. And then finally, eighth, provide feedback. Let's look at each of these 8 steps in more detail. The first step is to identify the exact issue. Generally, you cannot fix it until you know exactly what is wrong. Beware of subjective symptoms such as, "I think my computer is slow today," or "I'm not sure I'm receiving all of my emails." It is easy to spend a lot of time chasing problems that do not really exist. Verify the symptoms yourself. Determine if there truly is a problem before you attempt to fix it. A good test is, do you understand the exact issue well enough to write it down? If not, you should do some more investigation before you move on to the next step. When you attempt to identify the exact issue, one of the hardest questions to answer is the problem hardware, software, or malware or virus related? Let's take a brief look at each of these areas. While you cannot always tell without a great deal of detailed analysis, there are certain circumstances under which you should suspect that a problem is hardware related. The two most obvious are the system fails immediately after you've added a new piece of hardware, or the error message generated at the time of failure indicates a hardware cause. Of course, the error message can be extremely cryptic, and you'll probably have to look it up to see exactly what it means. Another situation in which hardware is suspect is when the system that has been working fine for some time suddenly fails when a specific operation is performed. This is especially true if the system does not fail every time that the operation is performed. Finally, if you find that the system uses devices that are not on the hardware compatibility list, or HCL, for this particular motherboard or OS, you should be doubly suspicious. In the same way, certain situations should lead you to suspect software problems. For example, a problem occurs immediately after you add a new piece of software or after you upgrade the OS with a new service pack. Here again, the error message generated during the failure will often shed some light upon the nature of the problem. Finally, the possibility is that the problem is malware related. Recall that for total protection, you need antivirus and spyware software installed and running on every server and every client workstation. Even so, you may still occasionally pick up a virus. It may be a new one that sneaks in before the signatures are updated, or it may be that a workstation has had its protection turned off or disabled, or someone has been downloading from uncertain sources. In any event, infections still happen, and when they do, they must be cleaned up quickly. The quickest way to find out is to use a scan and clean software. The next step is to recreate the problem. Is the problem replicable? Being able to replicate the problem is half the battle. If possible, have the person who experienced the problem recreate it for you. Often this will reveal whether the problem is operator related. Perhaps the next question to ask, has it ever worked properly? And if so, when was the last time it was working properly? An answer like, "Oh, that never has worked right," suggests a different approach than the answer like, "It worked fine yesterday." If it did work earlier, you need to ask, what has happened since then? What has changed? If you are lucky, you may get an answer like, "Well, I did change the network interface card, but that shouldn't matter." Or, "All I did was move the computer from that side of the room to this side." Once you are able to replicate the problem, you should begin to isolate the cause. These days, most computers are part of a network. One of the most frustrating things about network is the number of places where things can go wrong. However, the network's very complexity may help you to isolate the problem. Is the problem isolated to a single workstation? Is it isolated to a single domain or group of workstations? Or does it exist across the entire network? Look for common points. Do the workstations that do not respond all connect to a common server, router, or switch? Is only one protocol affected? When a problem affects an entire network, try to divide the network to see if the problem goes away in one half. This technique is especially valuable in the older bus-type networks, where a break in the backbone can bring down an entire system. Once you isolate the problem, begin to think about what might correct the problem. You might come up with a list of 10 possibilities. Arrange the list from simple to complex. The idea is to try the simple fixes first. If you are lucky, one of the proposed fixes might work. If not, then you've isolated the problem further by eliminating 10 factors that are not causing the problem. Try the simple things on your list first. For example, the first step should be to restart the affected hardware. This simple step has probably solved more computer problems than any other. Remember to look for obvious indicators such as power, activity, link lights on the suspected components. If you have the luxury of a spare, you can swap a suspected component for a known good unit. And while you may not have a spare for, let's say, a disk drive, you may have one for its cable. The result of these swap tests can go a long way toward telling you where the problem lies. You should also realize that the 8-step procedure is an iterative process. At some point, you may have to return to an earlier step as a result of what you have learned along the way. Eventually, you may have to break out the test instruments, although this should not be your first inclination. Once you have solved the immediate problem, test the system. If it is a network-related, be sure that all the affected workstations are back online. If you have made major changes, you may want to check the system against the performance baseline. Problems tend to reappear with time. To save yourself time and aggravation in the future, document the problem and its solution today. Over the months, there will be too many problems to remember them all. Do not rely entirely upon your memory. Besides, even if you do not need the reminders, your assistant or eventual replacement may need them. Finally, you should provide feedback where it is needed. This is particularly important in the case of human error. A little hand-holding now may save you a call in the future when the same situation arises. Fortunately, there are tons of resources available to you to help you with common problems. With the millions of computers out there, it is a safe bet that someone else has experienced the same problem you are having now. The key is to find the right information. The information sources can be divided into several categories. Let's take a look at some of these in more detail. Usually, the most up-to-date information is included on the manufacturer's website. Virtually every manufacturer has one. If you don't know the URL, try www followed by the manufacturer's name followed by .com. This usually raises the manufacturer's home page. At the home page, look for a link that says Support or Service. For example, here is Microsoft's home page. In the upper right, there is a menu item that says All Microsoft Sites. We magnified it for you. If you click on Support, you are given a list of choice locations including Help and Support homepage, the Microsoft Update Center, a knowledge base of how-to articles, a Product Solutions Centers page where you can choose information about a specific product, And finally, service packs. If you click on the knowledge base, you are linked to a sophisticated searchable database. To direct your search, you can select a specific Microsoft product from a very long list of options. Here we have selected the Windows XP Service Pack 2 product. However, this is generally not specific enough. So in the box labeled 4, you are given a chance to type in a specific question or area of interest. For the sake of this demonstration, we typed in backup to CD-ROM, as you might do if you are having trouble backing up a computer to a CD-ROM. The search found 4 matches. Each of these 4 links will take you to a detailed article or file that concerns some aspect of backing up to a CD-ROM with Windows XP Service Pack 2. But recall that the knowledge base was only one of the options in the support menu. Another was product support options. If you select on this, it takes you to a screen where once again you select the specific product here, for example Windows XP. Then you click on this option and you are taken to a whole list of resources that appear. These include error messages, a download center for downloading drivers, patches, and service packs. For those who prefer to communicate with humans, the contacts links includes an online support service where you can leave a message and someone will get back to you via email. It also includes a list of support telephone numbers for those who would rather talk than type. It also provides access to other sources of information, such as news and discussion groups. The discussion groups can be as general as the one shown here or more specific like the list on the left. Some of the items included in this list are Windows XP Tablet PC Edition, Windows XP Music, Windows XP Accessibility. Of course, Microsoft is not the only vendor who provides excellent online resources. Here's the home page of Cisco's website. Cisco is a major supplier of routers, switches, and many other network components. While it may be difficult to see from the slide, over on the left are keywords such as service and support. Under this heading, if you click on the Technical Assistance Center, you are taken to this screen, which is basically an index arranged in several different categories. From here, you could gradually close in on a particular area of interest. Each manufacturer's website has a slightly different look and feel and may require some exploration to find what you want. But generally, these sites have the most up-to-date and the most extensive information available. New articles and downloads are constantly being added, so it is a wonderful resource for any IT professional. Obviously, these websites are always changing, so that you may have to search around for areas that you need. Generally, vendors attempt to make the website as easy as possible to use. If you can isolate your problem to a particular hardware or software component, the chances are good that someone at the vendor site can help you. Most vendors supply you with a phone number for their technical support personnel. Generally, these are highly skilled technicians who are intimately familiar with the product. Chances are they have seen your problem before and have an answer available. If not, they can usually get you an answer or at least point you in the right direction. There may be a charge for the call depending upon the vendor, whether or not your product is still under warranty or possibly the age of the product. When you use telephone technical support, you can save yourself time and money if you gather key information ahead of time. You must be able to describe your hardware environment, including brand names and model numbers. And in the same way, you need the details of your software environment, including version numbers. You also need the serial numbers of software or hardware you are calling about. This is how the vendors know if it is, one, their product and whether or not it is under warranty. Finally, you should have a detailed description of the problem along with the steps you have taken so far to resolve it. One resource that is frequently overlooked or underutilized is the CD supplied with the product. Frequently, these vendor-supplied CDs provide excellent installation and configuration instructions. Often, whole manuals are provided in the text form or as PDF files. Drivers for the hardware device are often provided for the most popular operating systems. Some CDs supply detailed troubleshooting procedures that anticipate the most common problems you are likely to encounter. A few even provide diagnostic software to help you troubleshoot problems or measure performance. Finally, there are numerous other resources available to enhance your knowledge of computers. Some of those are listed here. However, these types of resources are generally viewed as more of a long-term investment in knowledge rather than as a cure for an immediate problem. Before we leave this presentation, let's review the objectives. Use your senses to observe problems. Describe a systematic methodology for finding and diagnosing computer problems. Determine if the problem is hardware, software, or virus related. And then finally, identify common troubleshooting resources including knowledge bases on the internet, telephone technical support, and vendor CDs.